Welcome, one and all, to the Joe Vans Halloween Special. I've released something every year since 2018, and 2021's no different. Today, Jesus Christ, you scared the fuck out of me. What are you doing? This is my dream realm. What are you doing here, man?
I walk many paths, young one.
Why are you still an orangutan? Why don't you look like a human being like me when I'm in my dreams?
Oh, you don't want to see my dream form.
Can you please at least leave? Please? Please. You're making me very uncomfortable.
Oh, okay. Yes, well, yes. Alright. I'll respect that. Okay, bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Okay, now back to what I was saying. Halloween is something special to me, if you haven't already guessed. It's the one holiday that I cherish the most out of the rest of them. And with Halloween come many things. Trick-or-treating, dressing up, ghouls, ghosts, all scary things alike. In the dead of night, considering how Sam Wayne began. And with scariness comes scary stories. The 3 stories that I'm going to share with you guys, well, let's just say they've made a pretty serious impact on me, considering they were told to me well over a decade ago and I still remember them to this day. One final side note, just before beginning, as far as I know, none of these scary stories have names, though I'm sure if they were written then they do, but when they were told to me, they were simply told to me. They had no titles, so I'm just going to make up their titles. The first scary story I'll simply call College. 2 roommates exist, but are completely different in every way. Our protagonist is a fun-loving college student who just so happens to have a bookworm for a roommate. The 2 of them get along well enough, but have their differences here and there. One Saturday night, while studying at the library, the bookworm roommate says that she's going to go up for the night, get some rest, and get back to studying in the morning. Our protagonist, well, she wants to go out, but she says, okay, that's fine. Finishes her studying, hangs out with her friends for a bit in the dorm, and then decides that they want to go out. Only thing is, now that the night's fallen, it's getting a little bit chilly. So the protagonist goes up to the 9th floor to grab herself a jacket or cardigan. She turns the key, opens the door, and then sees that the lights are out. So she's thinking to herself, already she went to sleep? Jeez Louise, but okay, I'll respect her wishes, and keeps the light off. She closes the door behind her, and begins feeling around toward the closet. She can look up and see the very dim silhouette of a body in the bunk bed, so she says to herself, okay, she's here, she's sleeping, I'm doing okay. So she feels around until coming across the closet door. She slides it open, reaches her hand in, and feels around until she finds her jacket. Then she removes it slowly, backs away, opens the door, very quietly says, have a good night, and then locks the door behind her. Then out she goes, out on the town. Her and her friends go out partying to the bars and they have a great time. Then, 2 a.m., bars close, they make their way back to the dorms, and lo and behold, as they come back, there are police everywhere. There's police do not cross signs covering the front entrance. And then obviously everyone's thinking to themselves, oh my god, like what happened here? So the protagonist's friends, they're living in a different building, so they say, good luck, hopefully there wasn't anything serious, and off they go. So the protagonist sheepily goes through the do not cross sign, enters the building, gets in the elevator, goes up to the 9th floor, and when the doors open, the police are everywhere. They're covering that floor. The second they see her, they say, excuse me, do you live on this floor? And she says, yes. And they say, you don't happen to be room 929, are you? And she goes, yes, that's right. As she confirms the information, the police chief comes over and says, this the girl? And they go, yeah. And he says, okay, come with me. He brings her down the hallway where she can see everyone coming in and out of her dorm room, guides her in while trying to blind the side of her vision, but of course she's able to see past that and see a blood-soaked bed of where her roommate was killed. They pass that and he says, there's something you need to see. Brings her into the bathroom, and written on the mirror in blood it says, aren't you glad you didn't turn the lights on? Now the second tale I will simply call Camping. We start by getting to know our protagonist. She works at a grocery store, she's in her mid-30s, and she's a bit of a workaholic. She's amazing at what she does, but she's had years of built-up vacation time that she hasn't really taken advantage of. So our story begins when her employees, who love her to death, eagerly suggest that she take some of that time. So after enough badgering, she finally agrees that she'll take a week off. And what she decides to do with that week is go camping. But not just normal camping where you find yourself a designated spot, like here in Canada. Let's say that she's off in America somewhere in like Montana. She decides to go camping way out in the boonies in the middle of nowhere. It takes her, a 9-hour hike to get to the spot that she chooses. It's up on a hill. There's no civilization near her whatsoever. And all she brings with her is a classic camera that takes film, pots and pans for cooking, and the camping gear. She figures to herself, I can survive out here for a week. I know I can. There's running water. There are berries, and there are things to make food out of and scavenge, that kind of stuff. So as she camps, she takes pictures of the things she's doing. She takes pictures of birds she sees up in trees. She takes pictures of the beautiful landscape around her, and she takes pictures of her cooking and stuff like that. So day by day, she experiences this fundamental thing that we call camping. It was an amazing experience for her, and when the week is up, she hikes all the way back down to her car at the end of the road. She gets in, and she drives back. She makes it to work. She takes the film and gives it to the film department that exists in the grocery store, and she gets her film developed. So she's hanging out, telling her coworkers what's up, and then the photograph department individual comes over once the films are developed and says, oh hey, so you didn't say that you were going to go with anyone? And she says, I didn't go with anyone. Why did you say that? And the person just says, the pictures, and gives them to her. And our protagonist opens the envelope and begins looking at the pictures. Pictures of birds, pictures of landscapes, pictures of the food that she cooks. And then she turns over another picture, and there's a picture of her sleeping in her tent. And another picture of her sleeping in her tent. And then birds, and then her cooking, and then another picture of her sleeping in her tent. Now to the final tale that I'm going to tell. This one I will simply call Ballerina. So our protagonist, he's an old man, he's living on his own, but he's happy. He works at a factory on the edge of town, and he himself happens to also live at the edge of town. He has the last house before a long stretch of forest with one single road that leads to the factory. He works long hours, but honest hours. 12 hours, let's say. And when he goes to work, the sun hasn't risen yet, and when he leaves work, the sun is setting. So basically every day, he walks this one straight road right to work in the dark, with nothing but forest on either side of him. However, there is one extra thing, and that is an abandoned mansion on the side right between the factory and his house that he has to walk past each and every day. The windows and doors are boarded up. No one's been in that place in a century. It's completely abandoned. It sits desolate. It's not that far of a driveway to get to the house, but past that point, whatever else the escarpment had, like long stretches of lawn, that's just completely been overgrown by trees and shrubberies at this point. So one day, our protagonist is walking to work as he always does, yet this time, there's something different. As he walks, he can hear the sound of music. He continues to walk, and then it dawns on him that the music must be coming from the mansion. The closer he gets, the more and more clear it becomes that that's the case. So as he approaches, he thinks to himself, oh, well, it must have been teenagers that are still partying through the night, and they have no idea it's 6 a.m. So curiosity gets the better of him, and he decides to walk down the driveway toward the abandoned mansion. When he gets there, he looks around, in the pre-dawn light that's available, in the moonlight, let's say, and he can't see any windows or doors that had been broken into. Everything is still completely covered up. So he decides to do a perimeter check, and he does, and he can't see a single spot, not even a ladder leading to a roof light where kids could have gotten in. Everything's boarded up, and yet he can hear the music coming out of the house. So he thinks to himself, what am I supposed to do about this? Call 911? I don't know. But then he thinks, wait, at the front door, there's a keyhole. So, curiosity brought him this far. He decides to look into the keyhole. He goes up to it and places his eye up on the keyhole, and what he sees, the stage being the front foyer with cascading staircases on either side, and with a sunlight bathing down moonlight across the front foyer, he sees a ballerina dancing beautifully to classical music. He finds himself perplexed at first, frozen in shock. He doesn't know what to think. After a few seconds, chills shoot down his spine, and he says, no, I should not be seeing what I'm seeing right now. Like, this is clearly a ghost. But at the same time, she isn't acknowledging him, she's just dancing to the music. And she's the only one there. It's scary, but at the same time, eerily beautiful. He ends up watching for another minute before finally backing away and saying, no, I have work, I can't be doing this. So he goes off to the factory and doesn't say anything to anybody all day. People are even asking him, why is he so quiet? And he, just shrugs it off and says, no, everything's fine, nothing's going on. So the day passes, night falls as he clocks out his shift, and he's walking back as the sun sets. By the time he gets to the mansion, the sun has set again, bathing him in nothing but moonlight, and music is coming from the mansion again. So this time, he looks around just to make sure there isn't any new developments, but no, it's otherwise completely silent. There's no notion of anybody else there. All of the windows and doors are boarded up, and so he puts his eye back to the keyhole, looking in, and what he sees is the exact same thing. A ballerina, blissfully unaware of his eye, dancing in the moonlight. Dancing and doing her thing while the music plays. And this time, instead of our protagonist backing away in fear, he ends up staying there for 15, 20, 30 minutes just watching her, being completely entrenched in her beauty. Till finally, after enough yawning, he says to himself, I gotta go home, what am I doing here? So he goes back, but all he can think about is the ballerina, her beauty, her essence, everything. He thinks to himself, I don't care if she's a ghost, it's beautiful, all I want to do is watch her dance. He's completely under her spell, basically. That night, he dreams about her, and then in the morning, he only has one thing on his mind, and that's to go back to the mansion. He walks, determined, knowing exactly where he's going to go, and this time not realizing that no music is playing. He walks right down the driveway, right up to the front door, puts his eye to the keyhole, but this time, instead of seeing a foyer and the ballerina, this time there's nothing except red. Dark blood red. He stares at it for 1, 2, 3 seconds, and this deep shiver runs down his spine. He shudders and backs away from the keyhole, and he says to himself, I know I wasn't supposed to be watching that. I know that was wrong. And terrified, he runs away. He jogs all the way to work, and this time he's extremely noticeably upset. And his coworkers ask him what's wrong, and he says, we gotta focus on work, guys. We'll talk about it later. So finally, when lunchtime comes, his coworkers all huddle up around him and say, you gotta tell us what's going on, man. What is happening with you? And he says, do you guys know of any stories about that mansion on the side of the road? And one guy, goes, yeah, sure, I've heard some stories. And he says, any ghost stories? And their coworker goes, yeah, I've heard ghost stories, sure. And he says, have you heard any ghost stories about a ballerina? And his coworker says, oh, what, you mean the ballerina with the red eyes? There you go. That has been 3 scary stories by your boy, Jovan. This goes without saying that I love Halloween, and Halloween is my favorite holiday. But what about you? Is Halloween your favorite holiday? Do you appreciate it maybe equally to Thanksgiving or Christmas, Easter, one of those? Let me know down below. And as always, thank you so much for giving me your time, for coming here, listening to some tales. Let me know if these give you nightmares, if you've heard them before, if they have names that I don't know about. Let me know. Just hit me up in the comments and, we'll take things from there. Who knows? Maybe I'll tell more scary stories. We'll see. But either way, as always, sleep well, fellow primates, make sure not to have too many nightmares, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.